Okay, let's start the show.
Yeah.
Boom, boom, boom. Show music.
It's the show music. We're exiting the show music. Hello, it's House of Decline.
Hello.
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 Oh,
And this week,
third member, Jay, is here.
yes,
Yes.
It's me again.
returning favorite Jay
Welcome back.
is back again.
Oh, thanks for having me, boys.
Yeah, and you're here for a rare issue episode. We're talking about the issues on this episode. Of House
Yeah,
of
that's why
Decline.
we have to keep our relations with China for their rare issue mining.
Yeah.
Yeah. They're making NFTs out of all the issues.
Yeah.
And they're selling them to coked up college students.
Nice.
Diamond hands. Yeah, so we're talking about hugging Nazis. Recently, in the online discourse, there's been some statements made about the efficacy of trying to convert right-wing people. Is it politically necessary? Is it morally necessary? Well, we'll explore these questions today because I think it's an interesting issue and one that I really haven't. I have opinions about it, but I haven't quite made up my mind on every aspect of it. So I think it's worth exploring. And Jay is on because Jay, I believe, will have some very good insights into this. I believe Jay is equipped to have some insights into this. So what started this line of inquiry was a tweet. A tweet was making the rounds, and it has 45K likes now, and it was hotly debated in the leftosphere. And the tweet is from at _ Basedall, and it reads, "Dude, imagine being 15 and having fallen down the alt-right rabbit hole, come to understand the problems with that ideology and seek out new community, and some morally lucky fuck tells you that restorative justice doesn't count for you." So that is the tweet, and the opinion being that there isn't a lot of space in leftist communities for alt-right people who have converted, for Nazis that have converted, and there won't ever be. And we should do more outreach to former Nazis, or people willing to change. And this sparked a hot debate.
Yeah, what does that mean? Does that mean, like, adopting a couple Nazi ideas just to throw them a bone?
Well, and
We like
also,
the
what's the
Volkswagen.
veracity of this statement, though, right? Because if you really think about it, like, and, you look at, the propensity of sort of left tube or bread tube or whatever, and, you can see, if you watch an interview with Natalie Wynn of ContraPoints or Abigail Thorne of Philosophy Tube, like, they will talk about, the amount of people who have come to them and say, listen, I was, black-pilled, I was in the alt-right, I was all super Trump, and, I started watching you, and I realized, and now I am a Maoist. So, I think we have seen that at least on some level, there is an audience for that group that not only has converted, but it seems to be has already been embraced by a certain left discourse.
That is also the argument of continued relevance for lesser YouTube people like Vosh and Destiny, whose argument is said, look, I can use the N-word, because if I use the N-word, all of these kids who also use the N-word, they'll like me. And because I also use the N-word, they'll vote for Bernie.
I just want to interject that I was rewatching Nathan For You last night, and there's a really great moment where he tells someone that his nickname for Nathan is actually the N-word. And then it's a job interview, and he makes the job interviewers call him by his nickname, the N-word, which I laughed for about 20 minutes.
I love that, man.
It's an excellent show. Also a beautiful producer. How To with John Wilson captures sort of the same awkward humanity. And what I like about Nathan For You, too, is it's like, it could be a lot more mean-spirited, but it isn't. It kind of is gentle with its weird subjects.
Let's not stray too far. Sorry to bring that up.
No, it's all right. Yeah, what are your first impressions of that tweet, Stephen?
I mean, I don't know. I don't know what they, I guess, what do they want? They want more acceptance? They feel like they're being excluded?
Yeah, I feel like there's this idea around that the left is repelling potential people because we aren't welcoming enough to converts. Specifically converts that used to be part of seriously, like, crazy philosophies, like, genocidal philosophies. So the pushback to this was from a lot of, black people and Jews saying that, look, I get it. It's nice that you want to bring these people, but please don't fault us for being suspicious of, quote unquote, former Nazis. And some people, they'll give examples of people that had pretty radically right-wing views that have now adopted a more left-wing persona, are another YouTube person, Shoe on Head.
It's so when you call them converts, my first thought is converso from the Spanish Inquisition. Right? Do you know this concept? The converso was a Jew that converted to Catholicism to escape the Inquisition.
Right.
Are these fascists?
But they were still like a third-class citizen, right? Like it became like this. Like it's like you can do it to not get purged, but we're still not going to treat you like a good Christian.
So is that what's happening to these reformed fascists? Are we going to put them in ghettos?
That would be. I don't know. Maybe. Let's ghettoize.
I mean, let's get a little more granular about this though, right? Because it's like, what are I think a question we might have to ask is who is in these far right groups is why are there far right groups? Why are they appealing to people? I think especially the tweet references something you said when you were 15, blah 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 blah, and I think it's kind of unquestionable that younger people are becoming radicalized towards the right wing. And, not to be all Adam Curtis about it, but I do think that, the appeal of something like right-wing ideology in, late capitalism, whatever, blah, 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 is that it gives meaning to the world. It gives you an idea that navigates the world. And and listen, that might not be the only thing, but if we accept that at some level, then it makes total sense that you could appeal to them with a different vision of the future, different vision of the world. That might be that the left offers instead of the truly nihilistic vision of the world that mainstream politics expresses.
Yeah. I mean, it's sort of easier to believe in a simplistic Ayn Randy worldview than it is to believe in Joe Biden, where you just have to be constantly making concessions to reality. That's why it's like the Pod Johns are insane to me. Like, I get being an Ayn Rand fan, but being like a fan of being disappointed constantly. What's your game here?
I can get it. I can get down with that. I'd say it's a very Protestant, stiff upper lip, like things will always be bad, but we are just the best at bearing disappointment.
Yeah, and I think there's a self-satisfaction there too. I mean, the liberal thing is like, oh, all you fools think you can change the world. We're the only ones who know that we're just careening towards death and just trying to slow it down as much as possible. Which is, again, not appealing, especially if you think about it. You're 16, 17, like, what is the world? Like the financial collapse, the election of Donald Trump, like this, you look out into the world and you go, yeah, things are bad. I need to get a tribe and, buckle up.
And I think libertarianism is attractive to a lot of young people too, because it's also a much easier way to square the circle of the cruelty of capitalism. Well, if we do have this hyper-individualistic philosophy, and what I've observed in the world is that pretty much it's everyone out for themselves, then why not embrace, that philosophy which resembles the reality I'm in? Where, as opposed to neoliberalism, which lies to you and says, we're dancing in a rainbow with all the races. I'd like to teach the world to vote in perfect harmony. So I think libertarianism is sort of like, and for me, something I also want to talk about is also I wanted to have Jay on is because we all came to left-wing or pseudo-ish, leftish politics after right-wing phases earlier in our life. So would anyone like to share about their right-wing phase? If they're embarrassed, I'll go first.
Well, let me make one addition. So I had a what I think of is more contrarian. What I'm trying to get over is the contrarianness, where I naturally try to go against whatever the prevailing winds are. So early in life, I was a communist because I was at a right-wing Catholic school. And so,
yeah, me too.
So I was just like, what are you talking about? Communists are the best. And then later I would go, in the build-up to the 2016 election, I became more right-wing. And that is accurate. Then I got out of that. But I kind of switched between in a weird way. And I think as you get older, you tend to settle down. My thesis is these kids will settle down. And that, remember the end of the book Clockwork Orange, not the movie, because the book, the ending of the book is basically that he grows out of it. He grows out of his insanity. And maybe it could be that these people are just sort of temporarily insane, and once they get a little older, they'll just calm down.
Yeah, and I think, usually the audience of these breadtube people are like 25-year-olds who are having these mid-20s existential crises, or these early 20-year-olds, just 20-year-olds in general. They're just messes. As a 30 now, I'm waging war against the 20-somethings.
Yeah, now that we're a 30 gang, we're smart and good.
Yeah. But no, it is the feature.
I teach Zoomers. I teach that 18 to 22 crowd, and I am constantly inundated with them. And I can tell you, they're not doing all right. They're having a bad time.
Oh no! Yeah. Well, that's fascinating. I'd love to hear more. Without sharing any details that can identify them, what's going on?
Well, I mean, especially on the Zoom times, and I mean, this is just a quick digression, but it's been, my office hours are really just therapy sessions. Like, I have students just come in and be like, I am not okay, and my mom hates it. And I'm like, okay, but what does that have to do with Alfred Hitchcock? But like, I had a girl call me on Zoom, and I was teaching the movie Safe by Todd Haynes, and she wanted to write her paper on it. And she's in this giant penthouse hotel room, and she's like, my parents got me this hotel room so I could write today. And she's like, and the reason I wanted to write about Safe is because it's about a incredibly spoiled, mentally unwell person, and I am an incredibly spoiled, mentally unwell person. And I was just like, know thyself. You better work.
Yeah, that's great. Yeah, everyone likes people with self-awareness. That's why people like Better Call Saul, because he's evil, but he knows it.
It's true.
And he's not hypocritical. People generally value, I found that people generally value non-hypocrisy more than almost anything else. Like, he's a Nazi, but he's a consistent Nazi. Makes you better than some sort of waffler.
Yeah, any hypocrisy is the worst thing in the world. Worse than genocide.
Yeah. Well, but I think that instinct, too, is the reason why people are very instinctually skeptical of conversos,
Yeah, and also, like, I think, the point that Stephen made earlier about the contrarianism, I think that there are different entrances into a certain kind of thinking, right? We've been talking a lot about libertarianism, but and like, maybe we'll get there because we're still kind of doing our, doing our story times, but I do think that, like, kind of breaking the different polarities of the graph, I think, are going to be important, because I think that there's a difference between how the edgelords get there than the libertarians versus the lanyard people. Like, I think they all have turned into this cohesive mass, but they didn't start that way.
Man, lanyard fascists, that's a spooky thought.
What are the lanyard people?
Like PMCs, just PMC libertarian fascists, like J.D. Vance.
Okay, so you mean like like my boss at the insurance company?
Yeah, precisely.
He's got a nice haircut. He always wears a suit and nice clothes, and like, I tried to keep up with that, and like, I'm wearing holes through my shirts. Like, how does this guy, like? He sits in an office. You put your elbow on the armrest. You wear a hole in your nice shirt. That was $100. I had to quit because of the shirt thing, and the Trump supporting. But it's mainly the shirts.
But yeah, those guys. I would argue that with the edgelord contrarian fash, they're much easier to get at. And it sort of depends who gets at him first, because they just need someone who they see as vaguely non-threatening to just do the Goodwill Hunting thing and say, it's not your fault. It's not your fault. And I think, you know, ContraPoints is that's what she's really good at doing, and that's what PhilosophyTube is also really good at doing. It's sort of this like non-judgmental space for you to question your weird ideologies. And I think the person who also, on the other side of the coin, the person who capitalizes on that is Jordan Peterson, who also says it's not your fault, but for a different end.
He's been psycho lately.
He's got 12 more rules for life.
He tweeted today, my God, not Scotland, because Scotland passed the hate crime law. And it's like, what the fuck reaction is that? My God, not like, who gives a fuck about Scotland? I'm sorry.
Soon you won't even be able to do a hate crime in Glasgow. That was their culture. They're removing
the center of the world, Scotland.
Well, soon you won't even be able. The SNP just got elected. Like they've had a pretty left-wing progressive government for like a decade.
Yeah, he's psycho. He's a psycho man. I have been so far able to not reply to any of his shit, because if I reply to it, I'll just get blocked or whatever.
Yeah.
So I'm just...
It's not worth it.
It's not worth replying on Twitter.
Yeah, you're going to be canceled by Michaela.
Oh,
how
please.
I came
yes, please.
to... I'd get her to cancel me. Cancel me right in the fucking mouth.
Yeah, Zoomers are going to have a cancellation fetish. It's going to be weird. Like...
Some people do it. Some people are humiliation fetishists on Twitter. That is a thing.
Cancel me, daddy.
Yeah.
Oh man, too many digressions, but have you seen that photo of the guy that whipped out his penis at a feminist rally?
No.
And like all of these women are just angrily, as they should, like just reprimanding him, but he has a look of pure serenity on his face.
Because he wanted that. He knew what he was doing.
Yeah, he knew what he was doing.
Okay, last digression. I saw a homeless person peeing in broad daylight, just like out, and I was like, oh my God, it's been so long since I've seen a penis in real life that is not my own.
You cheering, yeah!
Yeah, I was like, yeah.
Oh my God. Frickin' my path to conservatism, or temporary conservatism, was through the very embarrassing medium of Penn and Teller's bullshit. That was... A bunch of magicians tricked me. A bunch of magicians got me to be conservative. They swindled me. But because, you know, I was very stupid as a teenager, but wanted to have some... Not unlike Stephen, actually, I would say, in order to be contrarian, yeah, communism, bro. You know, it's great. I would go around with an Ushanka with a hammer and sickle, because I just didn't understand it. I knew it made people upset, though. Yeah. So that's why I would do it.
Yeah.
But then I started watching the show, and especially how the libertarians especially get young people is through weed, because libertarians have that issue. Shouldn't weed be legal, man? It's like, yeah, weed should be legal. And then you watch all the other stuff where it's like, isn't secondhand smoke research bullshit? Wait, what? Mm-hmm. Yeah, secondhand smoke research is. But they actually had that episode where they said secondhand smoke isn't harmful. It's real. Whoa, man. I mean, they had a lot of good episodes. They had the episode. A great episode is the one where they say Mother Teresa was a ghoul. I'm always a fan of that.
Yeah.
Same with Christopher Hitchens, who, you know, very problematic, loved going to war with Muslims, and he is another guy that I worshipped for a very brief period of time. But also because, you know, there is that rhetorical power of dominance, that sort of, and that's what people like about Ben Shapiro, but I don't understand it, because it's like, he doesn't have that same, you know, heft that someone like Christopher Hitchens could just really fucking humiliate and dress someone down in an argument.
Yeah, he has no heft. No heft at all to that man.
I would like the idea of Christopher Hitchens flattening Ben Shapiro.
Oh my God, I would pay money to watch them just have a 10-minute conversation and just watch like Ben Shapiro just melt into like a puddle of shame. It would be so good.
That would have happened eventually. Oh, that would have been good. It's like not enough there's not enough praise heaped on the Zizek Peterson debate, which is
that was great.
Yeah, big source of humiliation for Mr. Jordan, who apparently hasn't really read a lot of the communist literature, but neither have I.
I refuse to read any of it because I am a tenured professor. I couldn't possibly read one book.
Wow.
One. I read all of Nietzsche, but I couldn't read one book.
Look, he's beyond good and evil, okay? He's Jordan. So yeah, I continued that for a while. I was very much a libertarian well into college, and especially espousing. I was transphobic, very transphobic, well into college. I was like saying stupid shit like, you can't change your chromosomes, so it's not worth it, and receiving general approval from the friend group that I had formed around me. But everyone, after weirdly, even though we went to a very progressive in scare quotes college, it wasn't until getting out in the world and sort of living life and having your ass kicked that as Stephen said, I became gentler. Some people get hardened by that experience, but for me, it gave me at least more compassion in general for people and realize, hey, everyone's just trying to live, So I think it was that, and also just meeting, a bunch of radical queers who were nice to me. So that, I think there is something to be said of including Jay, because even well into meeting Jay, I still had very centrist liberal views. And it was probably him just, like getting rid of all of my liberal views, chipping away at it over the course of time. And then the election of Donald Trump, where I was like, okay, it all leads to this. It always all leads to this. I get it now. I understand.
So what would you say is the best way to get someone onto your side politically?
Well, I mean, you can suck their dick for 5 years. That works. No, that was my running joke. Is that I mean, I don't know if this is too much of a reveal, but Alex and I were a couple for a long time, and then I was like, we dated for 5 years, and it took a podcast to radicalize.
Well, they were funny. They were funny guys.
Who are you talking about? Chapo? Who are you talking about?
Yeah,
it was Chapo, but it was two podcasts. It was because I was listening to the Pod Johns. I was listening previous to Pod Save America in the run up to the Trump election. They had a podcast called Keeping It 1600. Right. The offensively, horribly named Keeping It 1600, which I found out through Patton Oswalt. Thanks, Patton. So, and I was using that as sort of methadone for my encroaching fear about the Trump era, because I was like, okay, these guys are Obama staffers. They're technocrats. They're, like the Avengers. They got this shit. They got the Harvard knowledge and shit, right? They know what's going on. So I kept, suppressing my fear about the Trump era and just kept listening and being like, ha ha ha, Hillary is of course going to win. How silly of these people. And then the shit finally happened, and then I heard their mea culpa episode, and my reaction was, stunned silence, and then, you lied to me, you Pod Johns.
More like a mayo culpa.
Yeah.
Yes, you heard it. You didn't hear it the first time. I had to say it twice.
I didn't. Them.
Yeah, miracle whipped.
Oh my God.
But going back to your question, Stephen, I guess, and I'll wrap up. I'll do my intro with the answer. Is like I think out of maybe the people in this Zoom call, I would probably at every stage of my life was more overtly ideological. Like when I was a right winger, I was like a young conservative. I am a Marxist now. There was a journey, there. But, for me, like my family are refugees from the Soviet Union. So I was always raised with a sort of, not even like an active anti-left idea, but just kind of this idea that like, yeah, communism bad. Mm-hmm. Like we had to leave the communism because Jews. And so that was kind of always there. And then my dad married a woman who is an insane person. Like truly an insane, crazy narcissist alcoholic. But she she really got me into Ayn Rand, and she was an Ayn Rand evangelist. And I read Atlas Shrugged cover to cover when I was 13. I'm pretty sure I've read everything Ayn Rand's ever written, at least that's published. And so I became a real sort of ideologue that way. And I think that's what I mean with a difference between, say, the edgelord and a truly libertarian instinct, is that I wasn't doing it to be edgy. I was doing it because I bought into the myth, which is the myth of libertarianism, which is that you are your own God. Morality begins and ends with you. It's basically a solipsistic universe. And also, you're the smartest person in the room and everyone else is dumb. Right. And I think there's a real instinct amongst, especially how a certain brand of a young person can get attracted to this, which is someone who's, again, did well academically. I was fat, I was gay, I was bullied, I was whatever. And I was like, no, you are the plebs. I am the true master. I know that I one day you'll all work for me, and then you'll see.
Okay. Well, yeah. I have.
The other question to that is, what got you out of that? That's, I said what got me and Steven out of it is just experiencing life and being made gentler by it. Because you were more overtly ideological, something greater must have happened to you. A greater experience must have happened to you.
I would say, one is definitely experiential. Like I've worked since I was 13, but it was the first time I got like a real job like that at Starbucks, where I kind of and I became management, that I realized just how broken that system is, and how it really isn't a meritocracy, and how it is, and how I was expected to, I got into a lot of trouble at Starbucks because someone would call and say, you're over hours, you need to tell this person to go home. And I'm like, well, I'll ask them if they want to have a shorter shift, but it's illegal for me to cut their shift after it's been, and to try to compel them to do it. And I would tell everybody their rights, and I got into a lot of trouble for telling people their rights. So that was one big realization. The second was I ran for student government under the conservative slate. And our whole thing was, the student politics is very corrupt in Canada, and that's true. And it's very, the major political parties on the left tend to do a lot of funding of that kind of stuff. And I was like, yeah, that's corrupt. That's bad. I'm going to be on the other side. And it wasn't until we had a backdoor meeting with a bunch of conservative MPs who were basically backing us that I realized, oh, everybody's fucked. So those were the two main experiences. And frankly, reading Slavoj Žižek.
Yeah, Zizek. I wonder how many conversos he got.
That's fascinating. So that's more to me a tale of like self-originated shifting of political beliefs. And what is often in concern to people is the other way. How do you do it to someone who is like a subject? Because to do it to yourself, and then this, as a follow-up, is can we learn anything from how we change our own political beliefs in our efforts to change other people's? I've identified, I think, 3 or at least methods of changing someone's political beliefs that correlate actually directly with our attempts to rehabilitate prisoners. So the first method would be via conversation. The second method would be through creating a tribe that person wants to join because of benefits to the tribe. And then the third way is through surveillance and oppression, or government surveillance and oppression. And those are also 3 ways we try to rehabilitate prisoners, through therapy and conversation, through group meetings, which is the tribal one, and then parole officers are surveillance and oppression. What I hadn't considered was the way what you just talked about was your own personal journey, which how can we encourage that? Because that seems the most effective way.
Well, I almost agree with the poster, right? Where I think in anything we have to accept that there are just people you're never going to get. There are lost causes. And so I think you can't use them. You can't use the exception as the rule, where it's like, if you tried and failed, or somebody is just hopeless in that direction, that can't be indicative of all future efforts. So I think, and also I think not being self-righteous, right? Like I am somebody who believes that you should, politics is about conflict and about trying to win. And so I think in a political arena, I'm very hard that way. But I think in a, not making people defensive, just talking to people like they're people, because I think, people, if you start listening to them and saying, oh, okay, and then you restate what you say, and I know it sounds stupid, respectful dialogue, but I think when people are not on the defensive, then they're able to listen better. And then if, just them knowing, I know it's stupid, but it's like, this society became less homophobic when more people started meeting more gay people, or people started coming out and there was a gay person in their family. And I think, that could be the same thing for these right wingers, where it's like, that commie is pretty cool. Mm-hmm. Maybe they're not all trying to eat my brain. So I think, kindness is I know people make fun of it, but I think it's a very important, because I think by shutting them out, then you've given up the game.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. But that being said, I think more people I think there are some people that are way better equipped and are better emotionally equipped, especially look at us. We're three white guys that all had conservative phases. I'd say we're all way better equipped to, say, de-radicalize someone emotionally. One, because we aren't fearing that they're, that we aren't fearing that, they have genocidal intent right from the start because we're white. And, two, because we can relate to them more on an implicit level. But yeah, so I think that, going back to the original tweet, I think that's what people took offense to. Like, it's incumbent on all leftists to be inclusive to these former Nazis, when there are some people that have actually very good reasons to be highly suspect of them and not want to give any emotional labor to trying to do that. And I think, we can be accepting of both things. And I also think there is a type of Nazi, or a type of not even Nazi, just a type of right-wing person, that it is absolutely not politically expedient and not politically good to try and go after, which is, specifically a big criticism I have of Glenn Greenwald now is he is trying to go for that audience by appearing on Tucker Carlson. Because when we talk about how we were de-radicalized, it was all as a young person. When we talk about, ContraPoints or Philosophy Tube, their audience are these 20-somethings, right? So it's at that age that, your mind's made up, you're in this prolonged 12-year identity crisis. You still can be converted with relative ease and then have your converted principles stick with you for the rest of your life. Whereas Tucker Carlson's audience are all these entrenched far-right people who are very old, and converting them to more sensible beliefs is not, it's not in the cards, really. They've already made up their mind. But Glenn Greenwald will insist that he's getting his message out there. So he needs to appear on Tucker Carlson in order to sow his message that the government is spying on you and you should mistrust the government. But what I don't like about that is that message is also flattering to this audience. They already believe that. They just believe that the government is run by lib Jews, And so it's different than when Bernie would appear on... So in activism, whenever my meager amount of activism that I've done, I could tell that I was winning someone over if I heard those magic 4 words. Wait, is that true? And with so when I was canvassing for the vacant homes tax in Toronto, I knew I had grabbed someone's attention when I mentioned, like, this worked like several times. I said, all of those condos in downtown Toronto, they're empty, and you're basically paying for them. And they said, wait, is that true? And that's how I got signatures for the vacant homes tax. So I think, and that's what Bernie was good at. He was good at conveying the material consequences of leftism to Fox News people. And you'd see him do it on town halls where someone would say, I don't like socialized healthcare. And Bernie would be like, you will save this amount of money. Then they'll say, I like socialized healthcare. So I think, you can justify Bernie's appearances on Fox News for that matter, but Glenn's, on the other hand, there is no wait, is that true moment. They already know the government is spying on them. They already know the government is evil, but they think it's just the liberal deep state cabal, which in some ways it is.
Well, and Glenn Greenwald is smart enough to know that. Like, I think there are also the difference is that Bernie Sanders is trying to make political change, and I think he actually is doing kind of what I was saying, right? Why was his appeal to these right wingers is because he wasn't the Biden people. They weren't deplorables. They weren't these, you know, white mold mass coming to take everything good from civility. He was like, no, these are good people who are suffering, and they're reacting in a frankly not illogical way with their, you know, suspicions of the government, and I'm going to communicate them like they're people. Glenn Greenwald has enough media savvy to know that he is just cashing in on the rage machine. He is not. That is not a good faith effort what he's doing. So I don't even think they're comparable. But to go to an earlier point you were making is that I do think that, you know, we also have to ask, like, are we trying to convert all Nazis, or are we trying to stymie kind of the pathway? Like, you know, yes, the 70-year-olds who watch Tucker, you're not gonna get them, and I don't think it's worth trying. I think anybody who's part of an actual organization, card-carrying, you know, fascist organization, I don't think it's worth trying. I think you know, for the long term and even the short term the focus should be on young people or younger people, because these are, you know, first of all, they're not going to die in the next 5 years, most likely, and they're gettable. You know, put your efforts where they're effective.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and I think even when you're going for, like, the harder Nazis, it's like it's sort of like therapy. They have to want it. You sort of have to wait for them to come to you. You can't just, you know, bust into a Klan rally and be like, here's my anti-fascist training card. Did you all know you're very fragile? But I can help you with that. Actually, speaking, there's another topic I wanted to talk about in terms of Daryl Davis. Have you guys heard of Daryl Davis?
Only You've from you mentioning him right before the show started.
Yeah. So he has... He's a black man that is famous for de-radicalizing Klan members. Mm-hmm. And there's something very interesting to be said about him, because I don't think you can't really seriously say that what he does is a bad thing. Some people try to say that, but I think it's like, no, he's giving people a better life. It's actually an act of beautiful compassion. A lot of black people hate him is because, you know, you're giving more time to these fucking crackers than you're giving to your own community, and that's totally sensible. There's a movie, I think it's called Accidental Courtesy.
That's not a good critique.
Yeah, I don't know. It's not. It might not be a good critique, but I understand where they're coming from. It's like, why do you put all this effort into, you know?
Because they're trying to kill the black people.
Yeah, well, and that goes like, because you were saying something similar with the base doll tweet too, Rich, which is right. Yeah. Like, I can understand emotionally why somebody might not like this, they might not want to engage in it, why all these other things. But I really don't think there is a debate. Like, if what we really want is political change, if what we really want is for our left specific projects to be implemented, and the only way you can do that is through people power, you need to frankly spend time on people you find repulsive, because you cannot create a political movement of just your buddies smoking bongs. Like, you need real political organizing. It involves changing hearts and minds. I know it's a bullshit phrase, but like, and frankly, for more radical politics, like truly transformational politics, the people who truly have a vision, even if it's the opposite one, that believe that they can and want to change the world, are a lot more gettable, I think, than people who are, you know, placid and nihilistic.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, but as a pushback to that, I would say it's what my main conclusion. I'll just say my main thesis and conclusion. What I do think is that it's always morally good. It's always morally expedient to try and convert these people. But I think sometimes it's not always politically good, because I sort of sometimes do agree with the anti-Daryl Davis activists, where it's like, you are wasting effort on this. Right. This could be better spent. Like, why attempt to de-radicalize? And, you know, the people that Daryl Davis is de-radicalizing, these Klan members are still voting Republican. They're just not Klan members anymore, you know? So I think the morally repugnant people that I would rather people focus on are libs. I think libs are much easier to convert to leftism than fucking Nazis or even fucking right-wing people, even fucking working-class populist right-wing people that you think all your high-minded weathermen ideas are going to appeal to. No, the culture war is of the utmost importance to them. That's what they care about. the people that you need to get are people that can be appealed to on, you know, a level of sort of reason and fact, which unfortunately is fucking libs. Sorry.
Well,
they suck, but you need them.
Facts, though. It can be emotional. You know, Michael Brooks, you know, rest in power, buddy. He used to say this a lot, which is that, you know, the image that the mainstream media creates of the kind of Trump voter or the, small town populist, right-wing populist is that, you know, because you're right, the culture war is a huge part of it, but they tend to be very culturally right-wing and very amenable to what we might consider left-wing political projects, right? Like if you ask most people, do you want free healthcare? Do you think you should be impoverished for breaking your leg? Like, these are actually widely popular policies. It's just that those people also hate black people, and they also hate trans people. And so the divorce of culture and actual politics is like, I think if you actually explained the benefits of a union to a lot of these people, it would work. But they just don't want to be in a union with somebody who has a different color skin. And so, you know, and this actually, the third category that Stephen brought up, the almost surveillance coercion one, I think that almost works in a certain way. Like, I think institutions like unions, like, even though you might hate black people in your heart, but if you're in a union with them, then kind of by advocating for yourself, then it doesn't matter if you're racist, because you're still advocating for everybody's, like, you're all advocating together. You're all in it together. So it becomes basically a structural imposition. I'm sorry I'm ranting, but my last point is, you know, it's something similar, let's say, what they did in South Africa, right, with the Truth and Reconciliation Commission, right? They, you know, like, there are very few places that have been more fascistic than, you know, than apartheid South Africa, with just the racial segregation, the torture, the humiliation, and how did the country deal with it? Is they said everybody gets full forgiveness as long as you say everything out in public. And it was more complicated than that, but they basically, all the white people, all the police officers, they went up, it was all televised, every minute of it, every part of the transcript was there. And they went up and said, I did these terrible things, and these are the crimes of our country. And, you know, Mandela, his point was that, you know what, it's like, we can punish everybody, we can have retributive justice, but then what? We're just gonna have a bunch of smoking craters. Or we look at ourselves and who we actually are, look at the terrible things that happen, and say never again.
Yeah, there's also an interesting, to me, difference between allowing someone to exist. It doesn't mean that you can't stop them from doing certain things. So if we have to have Nazis, we should be able to stop them without resorting to appeasement or concessions. We should have the power to efficiently stop them in a humane way. And I don't know what that looks like. Perhaps mass surveillance is where we're headed. I think it is.
Well, we're already there. Might as well use it for good.
A while.
Right, I think that's where we're headed.
Nice panopticon.
Except instead of the mass surveillance being done by the government, the neo-libs are making sure that it's done by 4 or 5 tech corporations that they are in bed with and are insanely corrupt with. So that, I would prefer the Chinese model where it's out in the open and you know it's the government instead of some weirdo at Google. Or Jack from Twitter.
See, you know what I predicted the way that we're going to get out of this neoliberal hellscape is with a technological change. And that is going to be the one that converts us into a eusocial society where there is no privacy and we just behave like bees.
Yeah, I mean, I think the idea of a no privacy society is actually not that crazy. And I do think that is going to be, you know, a major cultural shift, is that because I don't think young people value their privacy. Again, interacting with them, like, if you ever want to hear a group of 18-year-olds audibly gasp like they're in like a 50s cartoon, tell them you don't have Instagram. Just right, and it's like, and you know, and I'm not on social media, and I'm not one, and you know what I mean. But like, the fact is that they're posting everything. Everything's out there. Every feeling, thought, emotion, personal detail, scar, you know, even food item. They don't value
humor...
their value of privacy it's going away, and there's no getting it back. So we might as well say fuck it.
Yeah, even their senses of humor are all about being comically confessional. It's like, lol, my therapist says, I can't stop killing myself. Lol,
Yeah.
That's
funny.
So yeah,
I think it's funny.
It is funny. I mean, it's definitely funny, but it's just also indicative of where they're at. So the thing about this hugging Nazis thing too is, while I myself have gotten out of a right-wing spiral. One other point I would like to make is that, so in all of our respective conversions from conservatism, they were all not from like a real hard conservatism, but rather a conservatism more informed by the values of liberalism, which I think was interesting. I was a conservative Pod John listener. Stephen, when you were in the lead up to the run up to the election, I remember you getting really into de Tocqueville, which is a very interesting thing.
Well, I was taught a very conservative political philosophy in senior year of high school that basically all caught up with me at once. They were not big fans of Hamilton. They were bigger fans of Jefferson and, decentralized government. So I was really into no centralized government. But you need a centralized government. You need a bank, even though the banks suck. It's hard. You need money, apparently, even though I think I would like to ban money, but we have to live with these things.
We need money right now, for sure. And, and that's another, a really, I think, really cool point, Stephen, is that, because that was also part of my journey, as I was, libertarian, no government. And then, before I went, and then I had a left anarchist phase, really informed by some people like David Graeber. And because, again, it was still that, like, even though I saw the injustice in the world and capitalism as bad, I still had this, I guess, culturally embedded belief that it's like, no, government bad, centralized bad. Everybody, we're all going to have our own little automized, and it doesn't work. And that's how I kind of got to the other end of it.
Yeah, you realize that we can't all be like artisanal laborers building really nice little clay pots that fulfill us. And Jefferson's view of that society had, like, underneath it is just, imagine they're standing on black bodies. That's what they're standing on. In his artisanal farm utopia is actually a massive grave. It's a mass grave. And once you realize that kind of stuff, but I think the point is that our conservative phases were sort of coming from a good place, I think. Is that what you mean, Alex?
Well, it just, they were informed by the idea that they were informed by, I guess, more or less individualist philosophy. The idea that people should have personal autonomy, which I think, that is the thing that capitalism skews and twists and turns into something horrible. But I think that view is the, ultimately, your political views should stem from that humans should have bodily autonomy. And from that, I think all other political views flow. It's when people stop believing in bodily autonomy that you start to enter the more fash beliefs and the beliefs that are harder to crack, because you believe that some people should be able to have dominion over others. And you believe, in most cases, people should be able to have dominion over others. And I think that's the real hard ideological fash belief to attack. And the one that's not worth attacking. And that's who Tucker Carlson's audience is, which is why Glenn Greenwald sort of sucks.
Yeah, but I think that's really where that's the overlap of kind of the two poles I was talking about right at the beginning of the pod, right? Where it's like there is I think we were all kind of in a similar boat, which was some sense of meritocracy, some sense of individualism. And I think meritocracy really does create, because it's a garbage system, because it creates that anyone who is doing worse than you deserves it, right? Like, it is just an insane spiral. But there is another, and I think a lot of that comes from a superiority complex, and I think that is a lot of the Fash pipeline. But I think the Peterson pipeline is actually a very different one. And I do think that there is maybe a story that is not the story of the three of us, of these incel people, these people who go on and the internet, and they become radicalized, not because they are buy into a philosophy that gives them power, but actually they are radicalized by basically demeaning themselves. And oh, I'm the, these incel forums, and they're just people talking, my dick is so small, nobody's ever going to love me, I'm pathetic, I'm going to die alone. No, you're going to die alone, even more aloner than I died alone. And that creates a different kind, a rage in a certain sense. And that rage, I think I think before, when we were growing up, before the whole social media thing really exploded, I think those were two different groups of people, and ne'er the twain shall meet. I think now in the current media landscape, they have become this weird new alt-right bloc that we're talking. And so they're, again, talking about hugging Nazis or rehabilitating people, it becomes even more complicated because these two groups of people that historically were divided in some way on the radical right are now, the suit guys are now hanging out with the guys who, have dirty smelling balls. And that's, the guys with clean balls are hanging out with the dirty ball guys, and that actually creates a real bump in the road for...
Yeah, they got real ballidarity.
Okay, totally off topic. Have you guys heard of the Baldo?
No.
Okay, look it up. It's a real product. I know you're going to think it's not, but it is worth looking up. BALDO. And is this crazy man has invented basically a device that allows you to use your testicles to penetrate a partner. And it turns your balls into a dildo.
Oh, cool.
Interesting.
He purports that there are ballgasms.
Yeah. Well, I came up with fifth base freshman year of college, and that it involves penetration with your balls. But the method that I thought of, I edited Wikipedia and screenshotted it before they took it down. The method that I invented involved like a circle that you would insert in the anus to keep it open enough so that you could get the balls in. And the Baldo seems to be like fantastic news for us in this community of ball penetrationists.
Yeah.
Well, it contribute to the Indiegogo.
Yeah. For fifth base heads.
Yeah.
Get the Baldo.
Indiegogo. I should post my screenshot. I still have the screenshot.
And it's also I just feel like logistically, I feel like the motion wouldn't be comfortable. I guess it's like bouncing on a pogo stick rather than a thrust.
It's doing like those
it's got
fake
a down
porn
motion.
Like on a yoga ball?
The deep knee bend fake porn move. You've seen those. But no one does that in real life because it's not pleasurable.
Yeah, like the Amazon position in porn. They're like, I like
the Amazon position. I haven't heard that.
It's where it looks like.
So they trap you in a warehouse and underpay you for your work.
So I think the Amazon position is where the guy. So I only watch like straight porn, but the guy is on his back. Sorry, guys. And then the girl is basically on top. She's standing up, and his legs are behind his back almost, and she's doing 100% of all the... And the guy's in a very, like... You never see straight guys put their legs back behind their head. They never want to do that.
Yeah. It's weak.
So now that you're seeing it, it's very funny. It's very funny because it's one step away from being... He's in the pegged position, one step away from being pegged. Which I would endorse, and having done it only once and had a terrible time.
Well, that's like often with that porn sex where you're like, this is the worst.
Yeah.
And it's like, it can't be good for the female partner either. It can't feel like straight male assholes really want to be exposed that much. It's just like the brown eye of Sauron.
Yeah. Oh, don't do a callback.
Ever seeing, ever watchful.
Call back to our previous episode. Which was Turn Around Brown Eye.
Turn Around Brown Eye. Good callback. When Frodo puts on the ring and he sees the flaming eye of Sauron.
The farting eye of Sauron.
You hear the flames and it goes, but the brown eye of Sauron goes, when he sees it in front of him. Back on topic. fascism, hugging Nazis. So a lot of this is hypothetical because I have never in my life successfully converted anyone out of like a hardcore conservative frame of mind. My ongoing project is my dad, who I still love, but who has gone down the alt-right rabbit hole. And will occasionally go, but I think he likes talking to me. I think he likes having an adversarial sort of discussions with me.
Yeah.
Because we know, we're both not going to give up on each other, which is kind of nice. But I recently, in my attempting to chip away at his worldview, I tried to do a reverse double bluff toxic masculinity. Mm-hmm. So he was complaining about Gina Carano and saying that, they shouldn't have fired her. And I said, Dad, there was a type of old conservative who would have said that the need to air your grievances out on social media is for little pussies. Do you want to be a little pussy, Dad? And that got to him. That something clicked in his head. He realized that, the culture war, maybe it is for losers. Yeah. Maybe it is for jerks and it's stupid grievance bullshit. And for a second, I could see it get to him. And but then, he went back on it.
You just went to your dad and you're like, Dad, whatever happened to the Gary Cooper type?
Yeah, exactly. Basically, I said, I tried to Gary Cooper him into materialism, which for a second, I think I'm going to try that. I think I'm going to try that again because I think it's working.
I guess, my dad is somebody who has become basically a lefty. In a lot of ways, shape. My dad was also red-pilled by Ayn Rand by that same lady who was his wife at the time, and he got really into it, and he was really into that kind, and he's always been a corporate guy, but over the years, especially over the last 3-4 years, I think since Trump, and I've been I've been a commie for almost a decade now, so we've always had good conversations. It was never terribly adversarial, but he'd hear me out. And when I was there over the holidays back in Ontario, we were talking about capitalism, talking about the market, just kind of clearly how everything broke down. And, and he's very much like, this whole experiment we started during Reagan is clear, it was a big social experiment and it went wrong. And so, my dad was never, particularly racist, particularly fash. He always accepted me for being gay, but the implicit fascism of radical libertarianism and radical capitalism is something that not even through my own kind of efforts, but just by his living in the world has dissuaded him from it and has led him to basically accept all my left critiques. And I don't really have much to conclude from there other than I guess there is hope that middle-aged, 50-something-year-old guys can go through similar journeys like we did in our adolescence. Yeah,
but once again, your dad, while he was coming from a place of sort of a more liberal philosophy as opposed to like a hardcore us against them Carl Schmitt philosophy, that a lot of these people on the right have. And I think there is a meaningful distinction to be made between what earlier we called the edgelord conservatives. And sort of like, I'm a conservative because I want to do what I want, essentially. Right. But so it's easier to get to them because you can make them realize actually capitalism prevents you from doing a lot of what you want. But there's a different type of conservatism, the us versus them, the real clan people, that I just don't think it's worth getting at. Or it's worth getting at, but it's just never politically necessary to get at these people. But I do think if you do have the wherewithal and you want to do something incredibly noble and gracious for a person, then yeah, do something like Daryl Davis. Do try and, de-radicalize people because it's like a beautiful act of compassion to make someone not have a death cult drive anymore. It is a very nice thing to do for people. And it is a form of, while I wouldn't say, while it's not going to do any big structural change, it is a form of mutual aid. Sorry, folks.
I do not agree necessarily, but I'm not sure. It's very ambiguous territory for me. Part of de-radicalizing or attempting to de-radicalize someone strikes me as being like too, like, we generally speaking, we don't try to change people anymore in our culture, right? We're not,
Right.
we're, except for this and committing crimes. If you commit crimes, we can try to change you, and if you have an improper political belief, we can try to change you. But most other forms, right? Or am I off base here?
I would just say that maybe, but I also think, you know, that you have to bring up the whole kind of conversation about mental health, right? Because I think that there is a lot of, you know, I think, you know, I mean, I'm not saying this in any way that critical necessarily, I probably could, but it's like, I don't know, a lot of people are on medication that makes their brain to do different stuff than what the brain was doing before.
Yeah.
Like, frankly, that's how we deal with a lot of, you know, misbehavior in children, is by chemically altering them.
Yeah, that's a huge thing. I should have. Yeah, I guess it slipped my mind. That is. I have to go back and think about everything some more. So I'm just going to take another silent break.
Oh my God! Freaking medicating children, controlling people. Let's call the whole thing.
No, that's another way. That's an
problem.
entire another way of controlling and changing people that I didn't think of, is the medically altering their brain chemicals in ways that really psychologists and psychiatrists can't predict all the time. They're like, oh, wow, look at that.
There's this East Texan philosopher called Rick Roderick. He died years ago, but he had this great line where he goes, the thing is Marx always said that religion was the opiate of the masses. The thing is, now opium is the opium of the masses.
Yeah. You ever go to the subreddit are opiates?
No.
I went, so I think it's gone now because Reddit started banning problematic subreddits. But when we were in college, I guess so, 2007 through like 2015, it was a very active subreddit full of people basically trading advice on how to more effectively do opiates. And they had an entire weird culture that celebrated opiates. They would be like comparing how many bars of Xanax Xanax, I guess, is not an opiate, but they would just be trading drug tips like crazy.
Well, we had peers in our class who were very much a part of this culture.
Yeah, at like the height of the Sackler Purdue opiate.
Yeah, the
crisis.
OxyContin era.
I want to name that guy as much as possible. The Sackler Purdue opiate crisis of 2000 of the early 2000 teens.
Mm-hmm.
Well, and that's kind of always been there. I was a sort of ne'er-do-well teenager. I was a little bit. I mean, I was, you know, part of my libertarian streak is I did a lot of drugs, and you know, one of the but it was more party drugs. It was speed, ecstasy, those kinds of things. And for a lot of us, especially the nerdier ones, like, do you guys remember Arrowhead?
Yeah, I love Arrowhead.
So it's basically the same concept. Is you go in and then they go, okay, you do this, you know, this is how you crush a pill, or this is how you know, do a water extraction to get the oxy out of the T3, or, you know, like that was I feel like that's been part of the internet almost like
Reddit. The Reddit was different than Arrowhead. I was a heavy user of Arrowhead. I did a lot of psychedelic drugs, but the opiate
I love
subreddit,
the experience stories.
Arrowhead at least had a veneer of like, we're all psychonauts on an exploration journey, and the opiate users were like, I love to pass out.
I would rather hang out for an extended period of time with Fish fans than with Lou Reed fans.
Well, you just be asleep and dying.
Well, so my friend, the guy I actually talked about the first time I was on the show, the only person who went full right wing that I actively tried to de-radicalize and failed. But he also had an opiate problem, not an actual. He didn't have a big long pipe that was, you know, lit in a den. But he was like trying to get sober at that time, and he told me a story, and he was so proud of it too. And he was like, "Oh man, it was great. Me and my buddy, we had some oxys, and we found this hot chick at the bar, and she came back with us, and then she let us do lines off her ass, and then we both leaned up against the wall and fell asleep." And I was like, "Good story."
Yeah, it's always like, and then what'd you do? Oh, okay.
Yeah, not, and then she robbed you because you were in a coma.
It's funny how all Oxy stories end the same way. And then we fell asleep.
Well, there's this Ricky Gervais show that came out. Well, I watched during the pandemic, where his wife has died, and he's really sad and bitter, and he basically meets a heroin addict and then buys him a bunch of heroin, and then the guy dies, and then he's kind of like, oh, look at that, and I'm just like,
what?
Wow. What a crazy thing to happen in a show.
What is this show called?
It's on Netflix. Ricky Gervais. I have to look it up. Ricky Gervais show.
Yeah, Ricky Gervais doesn't seem like the most compassionate mister on earth.
Yeah, well, this is the show where I think Ricky Gervais, he saw Fleabag and it was like, I can do a Fleabag. I can do Fleabag better than Fleabag.
Yeah, I mean, he was always awful, except at least when he was fat, it could be like, oh, he's a fat guy making fun of fat guys, but you're like, oh no, your shtick is just being mean to everyone.
This show is good, though. It's called Afterlife. It is good. I think you should everyone should watch it, because it is shocking. He's not a nice guy at all in it. I mean, he's a fucked up and broken guy who's mean to everyone, and there's these nice people that surround him and are kind of like, why are you doing this? So it kind of has some relevant issues, because it's just the worst guy you can imagine who's had a horrible thing happen to him, and it's like, is he going to change? And not to give it away, but a nice lady comes into his life, and it's just, all these guys need is just a nice lady, a nice old lady to talk to.
A nice lady.
It's not a sexual thing. It's just a nice old lady to talk to who sits on a bench in the cemetery with you, and you can tell her her feelings. It's basically he finds a good therapist.
Yeah, find a therapist that doesn't cost nothing.
Right. He found a free therapist, and so his answer to dealing with trauma is like, find a great free therapist in the cemetery where your wife is buried.
I mean, that's how a lot of people treat their romantic relationships. I mean, especially, straight men, I mean, it's a cliche, but, in the kind of halls of gender studies, we often talk about, one of the few advantages you really get as a woman in our society is that you get to talk about your feelings. And the only people that a lot of men get to be able to talk about their feelings with are the one woman that they have designated as their one, and then that creates crippling codependency that leads to a bunch of terrible scenarios. And that leads me to my point, which is I think that, part of what, I think, should we hug Nazis, going back to my earlier point, like, why are there Nazis? Why are there radicalization? And I think that, there are a lot of lonely, sad people, and they're more atomized, more lonely, and that creates, and I think that there is that might be a solution too. Maybe I'm taking it off topic, but you're
right. It's Eleanor Rigby too. All of the lonely folks are Nazis. Dun 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 dun. But your comparison to prison, Stephen, is apt, because why do people join the Aryan Brotherhood? Yeah, for security. That's sort of it.
Well, okay, that's
so.
That's different.
No, I mean in prison. Why different. Are people motivated?
They're not. It's not because they're so lonely in jail that they got to join the Aryan Brotherhood. It's different.
Well, but no. I'm feeling really sad. I'm not able to relate to anyone. These guys are nice, but in a way, yeah, it's the loneliness is expressed through violence. If you are alone, if you are literally a unit of one in prison, you cannot function. So it becomes much more real there in a way, whereas the isolation in regular society is a lot more thinky. But literally, if you are alone in prison and you're not the scariest motherfucker around, you're gonna die. So you have to find some sort of group or ideology to stick yourself to in order to not die. And it works similar in society, where it's like if you don't have some sort of motivating factor or group or community, it becomes a lot more difficult to live.
I'd just be like Christopher Maloney in Oz. That's who I'd
just
be.
Chaos.
Just like a weird psychosexual insane predator guy.
Yeah, it doesn't say a lot for me that was very important to my psychosexual development.
That character, he's great.
Man.
That I love that show.
No, I was like, am I gay? Also, why am I allowed to watch this?
Yeah, no, you should not have been allowed to watch it. You should be 18 until you can watch Oz.
Oh my God.
I was definitely not 18. But, I think Alex is still making a decent point, which is like, I'm sorry, I didn't mean that sounded very demeaning.
No,
but,
it is.
I don't
think I did phrase it horribly. Yeah, so I get it.
But I think that in a lot of ways the internet is a prison of the mind for people. And going back, I think these incels and the people that Peterson, that faction, that other polarity, is that they feel aggrieved, like that their loneliness is weaponized against them, and by being lonely and by we all want to be in groups. It's a lot easier to be manipulated when you're alone than when you have a community. And this is both weakens them and then offers them something in return, and then says, this is someone else's fault. These women are doing it to you because they blah, 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 blah. And nobody ever tells them the real truth, which is, I'm going to steal this line from Hassan Piker. If you're a straight dude, if you just bathe, pluck the weird things out of your face, and maybe do a push-up once in a while, you're a 7. It is the bar of entry is not high. Anybody can get laid, even the most troll basement dweller. They can get laid, and I think there is a part of a de-radicalization project might be teaching people how to have friends. I don't think Peterson's an idiot for saying, put on your pants, make your bed. It will make you feel better.
Yeah,
his rules are pretty good. Sometimes. The one rule: regular sex with your spouse. Though, what the fuck is that about?
Okay, you want to hear my hot, unformed take on incels that I'm just coming up with now? But as a result, but what is the source of this loneliness? Why did these incels have this self-perpetuating loneliness to begin with? And I would say this is a very feminist issue because it is body dysmorphia. It all comes down to body dysmorphia. These incels think that they are so ugly that they're unlovable, but also they take this view and put it onto women as well. They think women are so ugly. Women that are quote unquote in their league are so unlucky, they're unlovable. They can't get laid because the people who are in their league that they should be getting laid with, they deem them unworthy, but they also deem themselves unworthy too. So and because we view body dysmorphia as a ladies' issue. So I think, there is a feminist element to it.
That I don't think I'm well versed enough in leftist politics I don't think I was around if this was ever discussed, because I know it has a phrase or a name, but how do we avoid having a society only run by the hot people? Because that tends to happen because attractive people are biased in favor of other attractive people, and it's like an unwritten cabal that's going on that is under our noses, where all the attractive people only hire other attractive people, and ugly people get shit on. But you can't. I mean, is plastic surgery for everyone mandatory now?
It's not the hot people. It's not the hot people, Stephen. I'm going to push back. It's the tall people.
It's the tall people.
Think about the most effective presidents in history. Abraham Lincoln, Lyndon Johnson, very tall men. The reason why the left can't get a foothold in America is there's no leftists above 6'6". Where are our tall kings?
Okay.
Our tall leftist kings.
I just want to address, Jay said, is that true? And I said, that's very interesting coming from a hot person.
Well, I was going to say I don't have a lot of stake in this game. I have literally been hired to be a go-go boy at a gay dance party, not that long ago. But there is, but I do I think if you think of the people who really ran, or the deep state people, your Henry Kissingers, your Richard Nixon, they're all the it's almost like the evil with, it's like Star Wars, the evil within the malforms their faces. The people who really run Mark Zuckerberg is not a handsome man.
No.
Elon Musk is not a sexy man. Yeah. These are troll-faced, like, behemoths.
I'd fuck Jack Dorsey. I'd fuck the shit out of Jack Dorsey. I think he's hot.
Jack Dorsey too.
Yeah.
Even the beard, the gross beard.
Yeah, especially the beard, the gross beard. He looks fragile. I want to stroke him. Be like, it's okay, Jack. I know you're in over your head. It's okay.
A tiny leathery baby.
Yeah.
He looks like a peanut. I just want to kiss him. But I think part of it is also like the isolating factor. Yes, I agree with you, Alex, that it is mirroring your own body, self-hatred out into the world. I think that's kind of true of most of this stuff. But I do also think a lot of it is technologically mediated, right? Like I think that, listen, I'm as sex positive as you can be. But I do think that porn has also contributed to a lot of this, especially in, like if you're sitting and watching a bunch of like 12-inch, guys like with six packs railing, all these women who are plastic surgeryed up, and that becomes especially from a very young age, like, back in my day, I had to wait for my mom to get off the phone to get, and 30 minutes to see Sailor Moon's tits. But, it's just so much. And it's like, even, when I broke up with my boyfriend, I was watching a lot of porn, and like I had to stop I was like, it's hurting my brain. I have to and I'm a 30-year-old man who can, control this stuff. 13-year-old boy, 14-year-old boy, by the time, he might even want to be having sex, he's already made himself crazy.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I guess I've always left porn unexamined. For fear of what I might find about my own psyche.
But you also said Sailor Moon, too, which I think is interesting.
The first porn image I saw... First porn image I saw was the cover of a hentai website, because we didn't have a credit card to get in, and it was Goku from Dragon Ball Z fucking Serena from Sailor Moon. But I think I was like 10 or 11, and so she was... drawn as having a penis of her own, and that was kind of like the thing, but we didn't quite understand, so we thought his penis was coming out the other side of her.
Right. like a button loop.
Yeah.
Okay. And but further to hentai, hentai is part of it too, because these are even more ridiculously idealized bodies that get into you when you're very young, because think of all the fucking like furry fetishists that shit definitely comes from Tiny Toons. That shit definitely comes from, they accidentally rubbed their penis during Tiny Toons one day, and that was it. They were a furry forever. Another point, a point that I want to get back to is, like, I do want to, speaking of the original tweet that started us all, the pushback to that is... I don't think everyone should be expected to attempt to de-radicalize even right-wing people, because, I'll use an extreme example. Hey, recently hate crime Sally, want to go to the Atomwaffen convention, and give out some flyers? I think so. I think that was the sentiment that people were pushing back, that everyone on the left is responsible for doing this, and this is... not only morally necessary, but the most morally necessary thing to do.
Yeah.
I think we can reframe it, right? Because I do think, I think a lot of leftists, this is their critique of liberalism, and I don't think we want to go into that, but like, nothing that we talk about in terms of left political projects are individualistic, right? Like, no, not every single leftist needs to put in their 3 hours a week of de-radicalizing that or the right-wing guy at the end of their apartment building. But I think to talk collectively as, like, I think one of the projects of us as a political movement should be maybe not de-radicalizing specific rightists, but putting something in place that that basically stops the recruitment. So even if we're not brainwashing people, we still need to do something to stem the tide of people becoming brainwashed, which involves our own propaganda campaign.
We know they are trying to convert people, and as I was saying, what we need to do above all is stop what they're doing. We got to figure out a way to stop it, even if we don't engage in doing it back, because they won't grow if we stop them from growing. So how do we do that? How do we? And yeah, I think we've actually talked about some good ways already.
But I also think, it's also going to the same, like, you have to go to the same places. You got to keep trying to get the same people, because maybe it is impossible to de-radicalize, but a lot of people are not fully radicalized yet. A lot of people are just dipping their toe in the water, and those are the people I think we should be focusing on, because frankly they're up for grabs, and if they're grabbed by us, then they won't go to them. That's the stop.
Yeah, and I do think those people actually probably do represent a greater share of people than people who are like fully committed to Sargon of Akkadism, let's call it.
Right.
Carlism, pure Carlism. There was another tweet, just to bookend this, we're almost up to our usual 90 minutes. There was another tweet by Twitter classic respectable lawyer where he was arguing, I'm just going to paraphrase here, that it's more or less easier. I'll pull up the tweet because he uses a very specific phrasing, one which did alienate a lot of people, so it's worth talking about. Respectable lawyer.
Happy daylight savings time, everyone. I was surprised.
Hopefully the last one.
I didn't know. I was like, wow, it's wowie zowie. It's 11 a.m. My gosh. Oh boy, what a Sunday. And then I went back to bed. So
yeah, I more or less did the same thing. I'm like, it's 9 o'clock already. Well, I can't wait till it's noon.
Yeah. With the passing of time ever marches onward.
Oh, my COVID schedule has been crazy especially because I teach online and everything's pretty erratic and I don't really do a lot of mornings. Like on a day off, like I will go to bed at 5 a.m. and wake up at 1 p.m. That's just the way my brain works these days.
Yeah, well, it's okay. I think the sleep schedules that we have, like the farm-centric sleep schedule, why is that so hard to get rid of? I don't understand why, but it's funny. It's like we're play acting a sleep schedule. Now that everyone works from home, why aren't half the companies open at night and the other half during the day?
I don't think it's a bad idea.
Yeah, like insurance companies should be open at night. Doctors' offices should be open at night, so that because you try to get an appointment at a doctor's office or set up a new insurance plan during the day if you have a job, because insurance companies are open the exact same hours that you're working.
Right.
So there you go. That's your new business, night insurance.
Yeah, I think it would do great. Because
insurance after dark.
At the insurance company, you come into a bajillion voicemails of people like driving home from work, getting into an accident.
They're getting into the accident as they're calling I'm getting into an accident right now, so I called you.
No, that happened. This old man called me from a freeway. I could hear the cars whizzing by, and he's like, I was just in an accident. The car rolled over, and I crawled out. And you're the first person I called. And I'm like, why? Why? Why'd you call me? I'm a customer service guy.
What about your loved ones?
And I'm like, okay, sir.
What about an ambulance?
Sir, is there anything else that I can help you with today? Because I have to ask you that. Now call 911.
Man. So I found the tweet. The tweet is by Respectable Lawyer. I've been seeing a lot of leftists think murderers can be rehabilitated, but not alt-right people, lol. And the truth is, both can be rehabilitated. But the murderer is usually easier because that's often the result of treatable mental illness, and being alt-right usually isn't. So that was, part of this conversation, part of the discourse this week. And there was a lot of pushback to this. People also got upset with this tweet because, for many... This one I didn't understand why people got upset at this tweet.
I was going to say, what is the controversy?
Yeah, because to me, all he was saying is that it is easier to make murderers not murder again than it is to get someone's deep-seated political beliefs out of them, which I think is true, because like most murders are accidental or crimes of passion, stuff like that. Which, yeah, circumstance, so it's like how is that statement? What people took real umbrage with is murder as a result of treatable mental illness. That was because it was like, I guess people, because they wear their mental illnesses as identities now, it's like if people use that word in a derogatory sense or a perceived derogatory sense, like it catches heat.
Well, there's this weird saying that I've heard that it's like, to commit murder, you have to be insane. And I don't think it's true.
I don't know about that.
I do not think that's true at all. I think to commit murder is a human thing that unfortunately happens, and we have to like stop it from happening. But it's like, I mean, what is this? This is like a Patrick Bateman type statement, I think. Like, Patrick Bateman had perfect politics, if you remember. He wanted to say he has perfect politics for his, like, he makes sure of it. He's like, I practice my politics every day. Are you kidding? My politics are 100% perfect. And he goes around murdering people. I find it to be a somewhat offensive take. I posted a GIF of Patrick Bateman to that, being like, I guess I'm just a fucked up guy.
Well, one thing I take umbrage with in that statement is not necessarily, because I think, I agree that there's an identity politics of mental illness that is not good. Like, I'm not going to go on the ID poll track, but like, I think generally it's like, yeah, actually being mentally well is better than being mentally ill. And the reason you go to your therapist is to be less mentally ill. And it's, blah, 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 blah. The thing I take umbrage with is that, like, maybe a lot of this alt-right stuff is too, the people who are, if we say that violence is, if we say that, poverty is basically the cause of violence because people had access to proper health care and housing and blah, 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 that we would have much less violence. And I think that's probably true with, right-wing radicalism. Like, these people are not, going to the doctor. They're not, eating good food. They're not living in, getting sunlight, like these things that actually, like, you'd be a lot less full of rage if you, like, maybe ate something other than Lay's potato chips and Mountain Dew, and like maybe you got a little Wellbutrin.
But aren't there very like well-adjusted Nazis in Germany who had love?
That's a weird phrase.
No, I mean that, like who had a full family whose children loved them, and they did horrible things anyway.
Yeah, that's the banality of evil, but I think I'm just focusing on one very particularly susceptible part of society that, if we're talking about the stopgap.
And younger people too, right? Yeah.
And younger people, right? So I think those things actually seem very similar to me,
But also why I think this comparison doesn't track, why just the tweet just doesn't really make sense is because you're comparing two inherently different things. A murder is an action, whereas saying someone alt-right is a belief. It's easy to get someone to not do something again, to not do a distinct thing again, but it's harder to get someone to,
maybe Patrick Bateman just believed in murder.
Well, Richard Ramirez, some people do.
Yeah.
Some people are ideologically committed to it.
Final thoughts.
Yeah, it's good. Try, if you have the wherewithal to do it, try and appeal to conservative people. Try and de-radicalize people. If someone's in your family and you think you can get to them, it's worth trying. Don't break your back over it. But also, if you're like not equipped to do that, if you're particularly sensitive to these people, you should not be expected to try and de-radicalize them because your emotional stability should be preserved over the need to convert them.
Only because you might prove useful to society later, not because of any sense of you being worth anything. I just want to make that clear.
No, but also because, you don't, if this makes you, I don't want people to force themselves to suffer.
I was joking.
Even if it is to do something expedient.
And while I'm going to agree with that statement, but I will also say that just because there is something that you don't personally want to do also does not mean that that emotional reactions mean that you should try to impede other people from doing it. And I think that's a lot of what's going on here, is that, like, just because you may not be in a position to do this and it might make you feel bad, I think it is indisputable that this has to be part of a left political project. Otherwise, it's just then that political project is just masturbation. Because if we're not trying to convince other people that we have the best idea, then we're just talking to each other about how smart we are.
Yeah, I agree with that.
Also buy the Baldo.
By the
Buy the Baldo. Where's Baldo? It's in your asshole.